There's something powerful about trusting in God's timing. Too often people get anxious when things don't happen on their schedule. They start wondering, why am I still single? Why hasn't the right person come into my life yet? But what we have to understand is that God is never late and He is never early. He is always right on time. When it comes to your soulmate, you don't have to manipulate circumstances or try to force something to happen. God already has a divine appointment set for you. He knows where you need to be, what you need to go through, and who you need to become before He introduces you to the right person. It's easy to look around and compare your timeline to others. You see friends getting married, people in relationships, and you think, maybe I missed my chance. Maybe I should lower my standards. Maybe I should settle. But what you don't see is what God is doing behind the scenes. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Sometimes the delay is actually a blessing. If God brought the right person into your life before you were ready, you might not recognize them. You might not appreciate them. You might mishandle the very blessing you've been praying for. That's why God takes His time. He's not just preparing someone for you, He's preparing you for someone. Look at the story of Adam in the Garden of Eden. Before God introduced him to Eve, He gave Adam an assignment. He told him to name the animals, to take care of the garden, to step into his purpose. Adam wasn't sitting around waiting, worrying, wondering when his soulmate would come. He was busy fulfilling what God had placed in front of him. And at just the right time, when Adam was ready, God said, "It's not good for man to be alone." Then He brought Eve into his life. The right person at the wrong time is still the wrong person. If you rush ahead of God, you may step into something that looks good but isn't God's best. You may find yourself in a relationship that's full of confusion, where you're constantly questioning, is this right? Is this what God has for me? But when it's God's timing, there's a supernatural peace. You don't have to force it. You don't have to beg someone to love you. You don't have to compromise who you are just to keep them. The right person will see you, value you, and love you the way God intended. There was a young woman who had been praying for years to meet her future husband. She had dreams of a beautiful love story, a strong marriage, and a life filled with purpose. But as the years went by, doubt started creeping in. She began to wonder, maybe I'm not meant to have that kind of love. Maybe I should just settle. She even considered relationships that she knew weren't right, but something deep inside told her to wait. One day, she felt God speak to her heart, "Stop worrying, stop striving, just trust me." So instead of stressing, she decided to focus on becoming the best version of herself. She worked on her purpose, deepened her faith, and let go of the pressure to make something happen. And when she least expected it, at the perfect time, she met a man who had been praying the same prayer. Looking back, she realized that if she had met him earlier, she wouldn't have been ready. She still had things to learn, healing to go through, growth to experience. But God knew exactly what He was doing. His timing was perfect. You may not see it right now, but God is ordering your steps. He's leading you, guiding you, aligning things in ways you can't imagine. While you're waiting, He's working. While you're preparing, He's setting things up. One day when the time is right, you'll look back and say, now I understand. Now I see why it had to happen this way. Before God brings the right person into your life, He prepares you for them. Many people pray for a soulmate, but they don't realize that the answer to that prayer often begins with personal growth. God doesn't just give you what you ask for, He makes sure you're ready to receive it. A healthy, strong, godly relationship requires two whole, healed, and purpose-driven individuals. That's why He takes time to mold you, refine you, and shape your character before He introduces you to the one He has for you. There are seasons when it feels like nothing is happening. You're waiting, hoping, believing, but love seems distant. It's easy to get discouraged and think maybe I'm not meant to have that kind of relationship. Maybe love isn't in the cards for me. But what you may not realize is that the waiting season is not wasted time. It's preparation time. Just like a diamond is formed under intense pressure, your experiences, challenges, and growth are all shaping you into the person you need to be for the relationship God has planned for you. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream of leadership and influence, but before he stepped into his destiny, he went through a process. He was betrayed, thrown into prison, and tested in ways he never expected. Every trial he faced wasn't a setback, it was preparation. If God had put him in leadership too soon, he wouldn't have had the wisdom, patience, or strength to handle it. The same principle applies to relationships. If you're in a season of waiting, ask yourself, am I becoming the person I am praying for? Many people have a long list of qualities they want in a spouse. They want someone kind, patient, driven, spiritually strong, faithful. But the real question is, would the person I'm praying for be drawn to the person I am today? God wants you to be equally yoked, which means He's not just working on your future spouse. He's working on you too. Sometimes preparation means healing from the past. Maybe you've been hurt, betrayed, or let down in relationships before. If you're not careful, you can carry that pain into the next season of your life. That's why God allows time for healing before introducing you to the right person. He doesn't want you to walk into a new relationship with old wounds. He wants to restore your heart, renew your confidence, and remind you of your worth so that when love comes, you can receive it fully. Preparation also means learning to love yourself. If you don't value yourself, it's easy to settle for less than God's best. It's easy to accept mistreatment, overlook red flags, or stay in relationships that drain you rather than build you. But when you know who you are in Christ, you won't tolerate anything less than what He has ordained for you. You'll have the confidence to walk away from anything that doesn't align with God's plan, because you know that His plan is always better. There was a young man who kept wondering why he hadn't met the right person. He prayed, he waited, but nothing seemed to happen. One day he felt God impress upon his heart. You're asking me for a strong, godly woman, but are you the kind of man who can lead her? That question changed everything. He realized he had areas in his life that needed work. Instead of complaining about the wait, he started focusing on his own spiritual growth, discipline, and character. Months later, when he finally met his future wife, he understood why God had delayed their meeting. If he had met her earlier, he wouldn't have been ready. He wouldn't have had the maturity to cherish her, the wisdom to lead, or the patience to build a strong foundation. God had been preparing him all along. Just like a house needs a solid foundation before the walls go up, your life needs to be built on a strong foundation before you enter a lifelong relationship. That foundation is faith, character, purpose, and emotional maturity. When you allow God to prepare you, you won't just attract the right person, you'll be ready to love them the way God intended. When God introduces you to your soulmate, it won't be by accident. It won't be a random event or a mere coincidence. It will be a divine appointment, something only He could orchestrate. Too often people think they have to make love happen on their own. They feel pressure to be in the right place at the right time, to force connections, to chase relationships that were never meant to be. But when God is in control, you don't have to strive. He knows exactly how to bring the right person into your life in a way that is undeniable. There are moments in life where things just seem to fall into place. You meet someone and there's an instant connection, a peace, a feeling that this was meant to be. That's not luck. That's God aligning your steps. The Bible says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. That means you don't have to stress about missing your person. You don't have to live in fear thinking, what if I take the wrong job? What if I move to the wrong city? What if I miss my moment? When you're walking in obedience, God will make sure you're in the right place at the right time. Think about Ruth in the Bible. She had just lost her husband. She had every reason to give up on love, to think her future was over, but instead she chose to stay faithful. She followed Naomi back to Bethlehem, not knowing what her future held. She wasn't out looking for a husband, chasing after love, or trying to control her destiny. She was simply walking in obedience, trusting that God had a plan. And while she was out in the fields working and staying faithful, Boaz noticed her. That meeting wasn't random. It wasn't just a nice coincidence. It was a divine setup. If Ruth had gone anywhere else, if she had tried to take matters into her own hands, she might have missed it. But because she stayed in alignment with God's will, He led her right into the path of the man He had chosen for her. The same God who directed Ruth's steps is the same God directing yours. So many people stress over their love life, constantly worrying about whether they're doing enough to find the right person. They try to manipulate situations, force relationships that aren't meant to be, and hold on to things that God is trying to remove. But when something is truly from God, you don't have to force it. What God ordains will naturally flow. There was a young woman who had been praying for years to meet her future husband. She thought she had to be everywhere, meet as many people as possible, and take matters into her own hands. But no matter how hard she tried, nothing ever seemed to work out. One day, she felt God tell her to stop striving and just trust Him. Instead of chasing love, she focused on her purpose, her faith, and becoming the best version of herself. A year later, while attending an event she almost didn't go to, she met a man who had been praying the same prayer. Their connection was instant, but more than that, it was filled with the peace. Looking back, she realized that if she had met him earlier, she wouldn't have been ready. If she had tried to force something in the past, she would have settled for less than what God had planned. But in His perfect timing, God orchestrated their meeting in a way that neither of them could have arranged on their own. God knows where your soulmate is right now. He knows how to connect your paths at the perfect moment. You don't have to scheme, stress, or force anything. What He has for you will come to you in the right season. While you're waiting, focus on your purpose, your growth, your walk with Him. When the time is right, God will make it happen in a way that is beyond what you imagined. When God introduces you to your soulmate, there will be something different about the connection. It won't be built on confusion, doubt, or constant questioning. Instead, there will be clarity, peace, and a sense of divine purpose. Too often, people get caught up in relationships that drain them rather than build them, simply because they mistake attraction for alignment. But the right person, the one God has chosen for you, will not compete with your destiny. They will complement it. One of the biggest signs that someone is meant for you is that they bring peace, not chaos. Love isn't supposed to be exhausting. If you constantly feel anxious, unsure, or like you have to fight to make it work, that may be a sign that it's not the right relationship. When God is in it, there's a flow. That doesn't mean there won't be challenges, but there will be a foundational peace that reassures you that this is where you're supposed to be. Think about Adam and Eve. When God brought Eve to Adam, there was no confusion, no hesitation. The moment he saw her, he said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." He recognized immediately that she was meant for him. That's how God ordained relationships work. When it's right, you won't have to convince yourself. You won't have to force the connection or make excuses for why it doesn't feel quite right. There will be a deep sense of knowing that this person is part of God's plan for your life. Many people stay in relationships that drain them because they believe love has to be hard. They think they have to endure toxicity, red flags, and emotional instability in order to prove their love. But real love, the kind that comes from God, strengthens you rather than weakens you. It aligns with your purpose, not distracts from it. The person God has for you will not pull you away from your faith, your dreams, or your calling. They will push you closer to it. There was a young man who had been in several relationships that left him confused and broken. He kept trying to make things work with people who weren't right for him, thinking that if he just tried harder, the relationship would improve. But deep down, he never felt peace. One day, he decided to surrender his love life to God. He prayed, God, I don't just want a relationship. I want the right relationship. I want the person you have for me. Months later, he met a woman who was different from anyone he had been with before. Their connection wasn't built on emotional highs and lows, but on shared values, deep friendship, and mutual respect. He realized that love wasn't supposed to be a constant struggle. It was supposed to be a partnership. Looking back, he understood that all those previous relationships didn't work out because they weren't God's best for him. Another way to recognize the right person is by the way they treat your purpose. Your soulmate will not be jealous of your calling. They will celebrate it. They will encourage you, pray for you, and push you to be the best version of yourself. If someone is constantly trying to dim your light, making you feel guilty for pursuing your dreams, or discouraging you from what God has placed in your heart, they may not be the one. The right person will see the greatness in you and want to build alongside you. God knows exactly who is best for you. He sees beyond what you see. That's why it's so important to trust Him in this area of your life. It's easy to be led by emotions, attraction, or loneliness. But when you let God do the leading, He will bring someone who is not just good for your heart, but good for your destiny. They will fit into your life in a way that feels natural, like they were always meant to be there. You will have to force it, beg for their love, or constantly wonder if they're the right one. When God is the matchmaker, love will be a reflection of His peace, purpose, and plan for your life. When it comes to finding your soulmate, fear is one of the biggest obstacles that can stand in the way. Fear of missing out, fear of being alone, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of getting hurt again. Many people allow fear to control their decisions, leading them to settle for less than God's best. But if you truly believe that God is in control, you have to choose faith over fear. You have to trust that He knows exactly what He's doing and that He is more than capable of bringing the right person into your life at the right time. Fear whispers things like, what if I never meet the right person? What if I've already missed my chance? What if I'm too late? But God never operates in fear. He operates in faith. Fear will make you rush ahead, thinking you have to take matters into your own hands. It will make you believe that if you don't settle, you'll end up alone. But faith says, I don't have to force anything. I don't have to lower my standards. I trust that what God has for me will come at the right time. One of the enemy's biggest strategies is to make you doubt God's timing. He knows that if he can get you to panic, you'll start making choices out of desperation instead of wisdom. But any relationship that is built on fear will not stand. That's why God reminds us over and over in His Word, do not be afraid, because fear is not from Him. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God had promised them a child, but as the years went by, they started to doubt. Fear crept in, telling them that maybe God had forgotten about them, that maybe they needed to take control of the situation. So instead of waiting for the promise, they took matters into their own hands, and Sarah told Abraham to have a child with her servant Hagar. That decision led to unnecessary pain and conflict because it was birthed out of fear instead of faith. But when they finally chose to trust God, He fulfilled His promise in His perfect timing. The same principle applies to your love life. If you try to rush God's plan, you may end up in something that brings more heartbreak than happiness. But when you choose faith over fear, you can rest knowing that God is in control. He hasn't forgotten about you. He isn't late. He's simply preparing something greater than you can imagine. Faith allows you to wait with confidence. It allows you to say, I know my soulmate is not lost. I know God knows exactly where they are, and at the right time, He will bring us together. When you trust God, you don't have to settle for just anyone who comes along. You don't have to say yes out of fear that no one better will come. You can have peace knowing that God's choice for you will be worth the wait. There was a young woman who had been in a series of unhealthy relationships. Each time, she found herself settling, thinking, maybe this is the best I can get. But deep down, she knew she wasn't truly happy. One day, she decided to stop letting fear drive her choices. She prayed, God, I choose to trust You. I won't let fear push me into something that isn't from You. She walked away from a relationship that she knew wasn't right, even though she didn't know what the future held. Months later, she met a man who was everything she had prayed for: kind, godly, supportive, and aligned with her purpose. Looking back, she realized that if she had let fear control her, she would have missed out on God's best. She saw firsthand what happens when you trust in God's timing rather than trying to make things happen on your own. Fear is a liar. It will try to convince you that you're running out of time, that you'll never meet the right person, that you'll always be alone. But faith reminds you that God is faithful. If He put the desire for love in your heart, it's because He has someone in mind for you. Your job is not to panic, not to compromise, but to trust. When you walk in faith, you can live with confidence, knowing that God's plan is always greater than your fears. When God introduces you to your soulmate, it won't be by chance, and it won't be something you have to force. His timing is perfect. His preparation is intentional. His divine appointments are undeniable, and the right person will bring clarity and peace, not confusion and chaos. The key is to trust Him through every season, the waiting, the preparation, the uncertainty, knowing that He is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. If you try to rush ahead, take matters into your own hands, or let fear control your choices, you may end up settling for less than what God has planned. But when you choose faith over fear, when you focus on becoming the person God has called you to be, and when you trust in His divine orchestration, you will see His promises come to life in a way that exceeds your expectations. God is not just preparing someone for you, He is preparing you for someone. And when the time is right, He will bring you together in a way that only He can. You won't have to chase, strive, or manipulate circumstances. Your paths will align effortlessly because they were always meant to. So don't lose heart, don't grow weary, and don't settle for anything less than God's best. Keep trusting, keep believing, and know that when God writes your love story, it will be worth every moment of waiting.